No G with a Z. POD Smoking Guns podcast back. Leo, we're back for the 5th season.
Yeah.
We've done this for 4 full seasons, and we're doing a 5th one because we are glutton for punishment.
How time flies, brother. It's been a while since we've heard that intro song.
It's true. Long off season. Leo and I had a great time going through 10 movies. If you didn't get a chance to join us for Holstered Guns, you should go back and listen. Those are all on our Podbean, and there's some great stuff there. Some fun movies, some movies we loved, some movies we thought we loved. And so here we are. We are headed into our 5th season. Leo, I took a few moments today and listened to like the first half of our very first episodes of Smoking Guns podcast. We didn't even know how to handle, like we were spelling out Smoking Guns podcast. The whole no G with a Z POD thing didn't even exist.
Right.
I was stuttering through that. We've come a long way. And we cover, what do? We cover San Antonio professional football.
Yep.
That includes the San Antonio Gunslingers of the Indoor Football League. We're going to be talking a lot about the Gunslingers tonight. We have a couple of special guests. We'll have, there's RC.
There she
we
is.
also cover the San Antonio Brahmas of the UFL. We won't be talking quite as much about them. And then we will be looking at the San Antonio Caballeros of the IFA, if that ever gets off the ground. We'll see how that works out. We've made connection with that organization, and we'll see how that works too. But that's not tonight. Tonight's not IFA. Tonight's not UFL. Tonight's going to be some IFL, some Indoor Football League.
Yeah.
My name is Philip Higginbotham. I'm one of your hosts. I'm joined, as always, by my good friends, Leo Yamas.
What's up, Smoking Guns posse?
And RC Woods.
Hello, beautiful people. Missed y'all.
So 5 years. Did you imagine that this would take us 5 years? That we would go 5 years out when we started? As I pulled up to my office, I'm listening to the first half of the thing, and I said something about when this all kicks off in a few months at the Freeman Coliseum. We thought that the first season of the Gunslingers would be in the Freeman Coliseum. That did not happen.
No, that's true.
No.
That did not happen. Instead, we were in the San Antonio Rose Palace in the barn with the fine layer of dust all over everything. Leo and I doing the calls from the weird little crow's nest over the rodeo arena. It's come a long way. And now we move into the 5th season of the San Antonio Gunslingers and the 5th season of the Smoking Guns podcast. We're going to talk a lot about the Gunslingers tonight, and to do that, we had to bring in the people that know about the Gunslingers, and we've been told, we know that we don't know everything. We're not the experts, but we went out and got the expert. And I reached out to him a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, our first show is going to be the Monday after Super Bowl. Would you join us? And he said, absolutely. No question whatsoever. And that's a big deal because he's got his own show he has to do every week. And if he spends an hour talking to us, does that mean he has an hour less content for his own show here in a couple of days on Wednesday? Head coach Menas, head coach general manager Menas. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Very well. Thank you. First of all, congratulations on year 5. That's awesome, guys.
Thank you.
It's a big deal.
It is.
We're kind of surprised in some ways. We started, I was listening to our first episode and we were all very tentative about how this was going to go because we'd been through one experience that didn't go well. And so we were like, we're going to ride this thing as long as it'll take us and we'll see what happens. And for it to be 5 years has been really incredible. What do you got, awesome. Leo?
No, I was just pointing out that the one experience you're talking about prior to that, I still have some memorabilia up right there.
Oh, yeah?
from that team that is no longer playing in the Alamo Dome.
So, Coach, let's talk a little bit about Gunslingers football. Last season, our first season in the IFL, we went 8-8. We barely squeaked out of the playoffs. If we had been in the other division, we probably would have made the playoffs. But we can debate the whys and what fors of last season, but that would do us no good at this point. We have to look forward into a new season.
Right. Yeah, actually, if we were in the East, we'd have been in the championship.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we had tough schedule, toughest conference, thrown into the fire.
Great refs. It was the whole shebang. Welcome freshmen. The freshman class.
So what is different about year 2 for you here? What do you see from the outset, just in that sort of bird's eye view of the organization as you walk into this season? What looks different for you?
Well, I think, first of all, because it was the off season, a lot of the changes and a lot of the things that I was able to be a part of was the off season with the league. So the manifestation of getting a new ref crew in San Antonio next year, I kind of led that push very, very hard with the head of officials. And then also some of the rule changes to give the defense more of an opportunity to be a defense and not just someone who breaks the rules all the time, so the offense can score. So with the twist rules and things like that, and not being the high motion guys, not being able to break the barrier, you don't get that 1 yard grace anymore on high motion, you're offsides. So just things like that, I think are going to make the defense very exciting in IFL in general. Those quarterbacks better have swivels on their heads because it's going to get gnarly fast. And then, aside from that, just the normal stuff, there's some big announcements that's going to come out with the league the 1st of March regarding our streaming. There's some good stuff happening. We're again with CBS Sports for the championship game, and it'll be in Tucson now instead of Vegas. So that was the league side. From our side here, it was kind of business as usual, like I always do the first couple months, which is recruit. And it was easy to re-sign all of our guys that we wanted to bring back. So most of them signed in their exit interview when they were turning in their equipment. They re-signed with us because they like what we have and like what we've done, and they know how hard we worked to get to where we were going to be last year, and they had a bit of a chip on their shoulder from things, as I do. So I think that they're that part of it was easy. Then got into some recruiting, and it was an interesting recruiting class this year. I'll give you an example. There was a player I signed that everyone told me to stay away from because he's just too uncontrollably mean. And he's the guy who worked the hardest to sign. So
hey, you want some mean on your side.
Well, I'll tell you what. I vet all the guys, and that's why I'm proud to say we had 70 guys go through our program last year, and we didn't have so much of the traffic ticket, which is very hard to say at this level of football. So we had great character people. We replicated that again this year with our vetting. We're bringing in 40 in the camp. They get 1 week to show what they can do. That first Saturday, 15 of them will be going home. And I don't care what their last name is. This year, we're going to go with whoever's the best of the best and go that route. The other side of it is I took over the defense completely. So Coach Johnson and I are going to work on that, but and Coach Fuller, we have a smaller crew this year, and we brought on Jonathan Bain to work with the quarterbacks. It'll be his first year as a coach, so we needed someone to fetch coffee and do all that stuff, so we hired Jonathan. I'm just teasing. He's a great guy. He's just tremendous, and
he's working hard in the organization side of things. he's been making calls and selling tickets and doing that side of things too.
Well, I told him, I said, I made him a promise, a couple years ago, and I said, when you're done playing, I'll give you your first coaching job.
Nice.
And I've done that with several guys over the years, and he wanted it. He moved to San Antonio to do it and be a little closer to some family on his fiance side. And so, we're going to, he's a great guy, great kid. So I like our staff. Our staff is smaller, but I think very efficient, we'll say. And everyone has the job. So
let me ask the question about the big off-season sort of issue, because it's something that fans want to know about. I know that it's not a question that you don't expect. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but you knew this was coming. We walk into 2025 without the offensive player of the year that you had last year in Sam Castronova.
Yeah, our new quarterback's better.
Say that again?
I just said it. I don't have to say it again.
Do you know who that is at this point, or is it an open competition?
How confident is this? I know two of them that could be better.
Wow.
Now, you got to understand something. When you watch Sam play, and Sam's great, don't get me wrong, Sam is a tremendous football player, but all quarterbacks are only great if they play for me. When they leave me, my guy's great, and he's better than that guy that left. Mm-hmm. And if I wasn't that way, why would anyone want to ever work with me? Okay.
Sure.
But there's different types of football players. There's types of football players that have a difficult time reading defenses, so they scramble and they run and they make big plays because they're athletic. Josh Allen, perfect example. Okay. Sam Castronova is like Josh Allen. Okay. The two guys we got coming in are like Jalen Hurt. Strong arms, step up in the pocket, don't care the bullets are flying next to their head. They ain't going anywhere. Okay. So my point is, you got one quarterback coming in that broke every record at Fresno State D1 school and has a cannon for an arm and has this unbelievable football IQ. You have another one coming in trying out that's 6'7", 230 pounds that runs like an antelope, okay, and can take off and do it and can see the entire field because he's 6'7". He's a nice Tommy Grady.
Okay.
He is that type of player, okay? And then you have Iman Caldwell, who is probably the best teammate anyone could ever want, okay, in there as well. So when I say the guys we have are better, they're better at certain things than Sam was, and even the stuff that they're comparable to, they're better than Sam because Sam's not here.
Right.
It's that simple. And Sam will go and he'll play and he'll do great in New York. And, he's going back to Albany where we had our success together. And God bless him. I wish him well every day. And I like all his pictures of his kids and all that good stuff. I think what we have for us and for our mindset this year is better than what we had last year. And I need quarterbacks that are engaged. I need quarterbacks that are going to sit and watch 4 hours of film a day, that are going to be into it, that are going to do all those things that you want a professional quarterback to do. And so when I recruited that type of guy. Okay. I signed Iman right away because the type of character and person quarterback he is. I signed Jorge, for three reasons. I kid him all the time. One, he's Hispanic, and he's coming to San Antonio. Two is his fiance is Greek, and she cooks Greek food, so I had to bring him in. Right? And then three, he's an outstanding quarterback, in addition to all those things. And so when I signed him, I felt really good about it after talking to his college coach, after talking to everybody who'd been involved with him in the past. And then lastly, I waited on Guy Myers. And everyone, and I'm sure Guy was kind of wondering, am I going to call? Am I going to call? And that kind of thing. And I'd get a call from Tina, super mom, it'd be great if my two boys were playing together. And I go, yeah, that's not my motivation to make you happy. Okay. But I wanted to wait and see what Guy was going to do. And he never picked up the phone, which is what I wanted. And he was waiting for me to call. And that shows me a strong confidence in your ability that if Menas doesn't call, someone's going to call, even if I want to go there, right? And then once I called him, we talk all the time. We communicate. We had an hour conversation about life last Thursday. So 3 tremendous guys. Like I said, I wish Sam, God bless him. I wish him all the luck in the world, stay healthy, and have a great career moving forward. We're past it. We've moved on. So a lot of things you have to understand how I look at losing a guy like Sam and replacing him is it wasn't all Sam. It was Naquan Murray. It was DJ Myers. It was Austin Upshaw. It was Kali Rashad. It was Harper running the ball. It was those our offensive line. Those are the guys that get when your quarterback makes an MVP role. That's why in the NFL, that's the guy who buys the entire offensive line and wide receivers, Jeeps. Okay. So because you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
So with Coach Fuller's offense and his strategies, which I'm perfectly in line with, any one of the 3 guys I mentioned has an opportunity to be an MVP quarterback. Because I think we're still going to score 50 points a game. That's not going to change. Because Sam wasn't throwing to himself. Okay. Right. And a lot of times, if you watch film, a lot of those balls were 50-50 balls. DJ Myers, Kali over walls, Murray's one-handed cone catch in the end zone. None of those are supposed to be caught. So they would have been 3 incompletions. Instead, they're 3 touchdowns, right? So, yeah, I want to give Sam his credit. God bless him. But I also want everyone to know someone had to catch that ball. Someone had to give him time to throw. And so, yeah, I'm very excited about our quarterback position this year, more so than probably in a long time.
Yvonne Caldwell checking in. He's listening. He's watching.
His ears were burning.
Yeah.
I do want to point out for any fans, any folks that might be like, it's just such a big hole to lose Sam Castronova. Sam Castronova wasn't Sam Castronova 3 years ago. I can remember Albany starting off the season, and you actually started that season with a different quarterback.
Right.
If I remember correctly.
Hey, Sam, we got Sam because he got cut and he was sitting on the couch when I got him.
Right.
Okay. So great coaching, great coordinators. Surround him with great talent. I told Coach Fuller this year when I was recruiting, I said, hey, you already got, what? I stocked your store last year. Now I'm stocking the defensive side, just so you know. And that's kind of what we did. We were comfortable in securing our offensive guys early, and then that afforded us the opportunity to get some really good defensive players.
That's great on the offensive side. Go ahead, Leo.
No, I was just going to say, Coach, I think we were the top scoring offense in the IFL last season. But we also were probably ranked last in defense, if not second to last. But we were probably, I think we were dead last as far as points given up.
Yeah,
which made it tough
early on too.
On
in the season because we got better as the season went on because we had. Our defense was all
Absolutely.
1-year guys, and because my thought was, if I can put an offense together that'll score 50, 60 points a game, and I can hold guys to 40 points a game, we're going to win this thing, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, with the rules that the way they were last year, and the whole scheduling thing where we're playing 3 games in like 9 days and all that stuff, it was hard on first-year guys. And the the repetitive speed of a season where you play a game on Saturday and let's say your DB is just garbage and you got to get rid of him, right? And you got to bring in a new guy, but you're playing on Friday, and you don't get home until Monday. And so you bring a kid in, and if you bring the guy in, what are the chances that he's going to be better than what you already have because you're not giving them time to get prepared. So a lot of times you wait and see, oh, well, there's a bye week coming. That's a good time to bring in guys, or this is there and that's there. But the way our bye weeks were scattered, all our bye weeks were in the first couple of weeks of the season.
Right.
And then we didn't have one till like 11 games, 9, 10 games down the road. So it was hard to make changes in personnel because the speed of the season that for us last year. This year it's much better. So
yeah, we were all rookies last season. Expansion team, everyone top to bottom organization, first experience in the IFL. So that was one of the questions I had for you, Coach. What is the main thing if you had to kind of circle one thing that you learned, your one takeaway from season 1 in the IFL that you really want to change or improve on this season? What would that one thing be? What's that single thing that we learned from the first?
It's so hard to pin down the one thing because I did a lot of things wrong. I think we all did in our first season to a certain degree, but expectation or talent and effort have to match expectation. I think is the biggest thing. If you ask me today what I think we're going to do next year, this season, I think we're going to go undefeated, and I think we're going to win the championship. And I'll say that every year, right? But if you ask some neutral podcasters from around the league, just about all of them got us in the playoffs this year. And there's a reason for that, because I still think last year we should have got our shot in the playoffs, but I think this year, knowing what we know now and knowing how games are called and knowing how clocks are run in certain arenas and understanding the methodology of the IFL, I think we're better prepared. You look at teams like Jacksonville last year and what they won 3-4 games, right? And, they were in the exact same boat we were in, and yet we won 8. And arguably one more than that. But, my point is that even with all the stuff we didn't do well, we pulled off the 8-8. And I'll be honest with you, I had a conversation with Don after the season, and I said to him, I go, we didn't make the playoffs and we didn't obviously do those things, but we created a culture here that if you'll trust me and trust the process, this is going to be something you're going to be really, really proud of over the next several years. And I believe it. And everywhere I go, players want to come here and play. And everywhere I go, owners want to ask how we're doing it. So we must be doing something right.
When you say culture, can you expand on that a little bit for those who maybe this may be the first year coming to a Gunslinger game?
Yeah, well, RC, I tell the players this is probably a suckiest place to come and play if you're a player. It's so hard to be a gunslinger. And they look at you like, what are you talking about? And I go, because we have a 0 tolerance on drugs. We have a 0 tolerance on public intoxication. We have a 0 tolerance for profanity in the arena or in the stands. We stand for the national anthem. We bow our heads in prayer. We pray before every meal. We do all that. And if you're not that disciplined of a guy, don't come here, because that's our culture. Our culture is God, family, and football. Matter of fact, this offseason, I started a foundation called God, Family, and Football, the Menas Foundation. So I believe in it so much so that when we recruit, I warn guys in advance, hey, if you like to party and you like to do things, go someplace else, go to mass, go someplace else. Don't come here, because our culture does not deviate from that. We're patriotic, we're God-fearing, and we want to be humble when we win. We want to be humble when we lose. So That's what we're trying. That's our culture, I guess, RC, the best way to put it.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh, no worries.
So you alluded to some of this earlier, but I kind of want to walk through some of the IFL, the league rule changes, because I think that they are, I love a league that says we want to make the product better. And I think every one of these makes the product better, makes the football more like football. There were some things that were they were manufacturing things on the defensive side of things that you just weren't allowed to do, not because it was bad, but just because it would give the defense an opportunity to do some things, and they wanted to juice.
No, they were bad. They were bad.
So
they're bad when the refs. You know they're bad when the refs don't even know how to call them because they don't understand them. Okay,
sure.
So yeah, you know they're
so
bad.
There's 6 major rule changes, and I want to make sure that fans of the league understand what they're going to be looking at, because some of this will affect how you watch the game. The first one, which I love all of these, but I'm going to say this every time. The first one is the kick off rule adjustment. We're not going from, if you kick it through the back of the end zone, it never touches the field. It goes to the 20. And then last year, after 1 or 2 of those, they moved it to the 25.
Right. You get one. You'd get one at the 20, and then from then on, the remainder of that half, they'd go to the 25. So this year, as long as the ball goes through the back of the end zone, if it goes through which still encourages guys to go for the deuce.
Mm-hmm.
And if you noted, I signed Kevin Didio Weber, who's probably one of the best kickers, right?
Love the deuce.
And I kidded around. I called TC and I go, TC, who? Who are you? What? No. But the cool thing about that is now you can still go for the deuce, and you know there's not a major sacrifice. The idea from the 20 is, you do 2 first downs and you're basically in the end zone, right? At the 25. At the 20, it makes it interesting. You got to get 3 first downs to get in the end zone, right? So
it just simplifies the watching experience for fans. They don't have to wonder, why was it on the 20 last time and now it's on the 25? That gets confusing. I'm not gonna lie.
Again, part of the offseason was made simplifying things for the referees too.
Sure.
Okay. So we feel like that simplifies things for the referees, 1, and 2, it makes it more competitive with the defense and the offense starting at the 20 than it does the 25.
The second rule change for the season is probably my favorite rule change. I would like to see this in football across the board. I think it is the rule that, in fact, we were talking about when our show started. We had a previous show called the Command Post Podcast that covered the commanders of the Alliance of American Football. I had to audition for that job. I had to sit down with the producer of that show and audition. And he said, just talk to me about football for a few minutes. Just tell me one thing you would change about the game of football. This was actually my rule that I talked about. It is positive yardage in the final minute. So I love this rule. Let me explain it real quick, Coach, and then you can tell me. You already look dubious. I'm not sure you love this rule as much as I do.
No, I was in the owners' meeting arguing for this rule. So, yes.
At the end of the game, the team that has the lead and has the ball must get to the line of scrimmage or beyond with the ball to keep the clock running. In other words, if the defense finds a way to stop you behind the line of scrimmage, they can stop the clock without using a timeout.
Well, let me correct you. They have to get a yard. They can't get to the line of scrimmage. They have to gain a yard in order for the clock to continue to run. If they don't gain the yard, then the clock stops. So let's say they get past the line of scrimmage, but only gain a foot. Okay. The clock will stop at that point. But the contingency on that rule is you have to be up. If you want to kneel, you have to be up by at least 14 points.
Okay.
Right.
So if you're up by 14 points, you can kneel. Or let's say you're up by 11 and their coach looks at me and I go, yeah, just run it.
Okay.
And then I can let them, run out the clock on the knee. I would never do that, but it's an option, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and that's, I tell this story all the time. When I was in Tampa Bay, we scored 17 points in like 31 seconds. Oh, it's 37 seconds, but yeah, and it can happen, right?
Yep.
So now with our rules, you think about it, you can score a touchdown, then you can do a drop kick, which I hate. Okay, you can do a drop kick, and then you get your 2 points, so that's 8, right? And then you can kick a deuce, so then you can get 10 points on one possession, essentially. Right. So that's why we kind of figured 14 was probably the sweet spot. Kevin Guy, I think, was the guy who actually made the best point about that number, and we all agreed.
James Palmer checking in on Facebook says this was a rule in the NAL, correct? Yes, it was. And I loved it then, and I love it now. It is, like I say, it is something that for the last 6 or 7 years, if I would change something about football, this is what I would do.
But the only thing that I had a concern with, and I think that if you're up by 12 points and there's 41 seconds left, right? There's always a danger of the defensive guys trying to hurt your people because they're losing. And you get knees and you get this and you get that and you get some fights started and all that other stuff. And that's why the thought was kneeling kind of put a snafu on that, because then it becomes so egregious and obvious if you do something nefarious, right? But I got over that quick and I said, yeah, no, I agree. And I like the rule. It was here. I think what Todd Tryon said to me was, we're trying to make it as close to the NCAA as we can.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And that's not only just a matter of improving the product, but a lot of your referees come from the NCAA. And so the closer we can make it to that game, the better things can be.
Now you're thinking, Phil. You got it. Absolutely.
Every once in a while, more than just a hat rack, my friend. Third big rule change that, again, I love. Did you have something, Leo? I'm sorry.
Go continue with this, but I do have a thought I want to kind of backtrack on when we're done with the rules.
Okay.
I think this is going to be one of Coach's favorite things. Linebacker blitzing rules have been simplified. You no longer have to only blitz through the middle of the line or one length of a person outside of the line, which is what they tried last year.
The box,
You can do a big sweeping blitz around the side, and if you can get there in enough time, that's on you.
Well,
you're taking a guy out of the defensive backfield, but
I've been spending the last 2 weeks doing nothing but drawing up blitz packages, right? And he can not only rush the outside, he can twist with the opposite defensive end if he wanted to the field side, and you can have your nose guard twist with your end, and you can do anything you want, essentially, in crossing in the box now. And here was the biggest reason for that. Do you know how many defensive penalties not only we had, but around the league of, let's say you have your nose guard, and your nose guard comes off the ball, but he gets blocked, and he kind of gets blown back a little bit, and then the defensive end somehow kind of squirts into the A gap, and then the nose guard gets free and he rushes around that and he's in the B gap. Now that's an illegal twist.
Right.
And that was getting called all the time. And red flags. Way
too much.
Right?
Yeah.
So now it's so important for the offensive lines and defensive lines, especially offensive line. You better learn how to block that, because now the idea of just sending your running back off into a pass pattern, those days are gone, because, if you're sending 4 and you're only blocking with 3, someone's going to die. Okay. And so you have to start looking in terms like that. Let's say there's a screen to the fullback. So the fullback went outside. Previously, our linebacker couldn't go out there, right? Because he's technically not running the ball or catching the ball yet. So he gave him a 15-yard cushion to catch the ball and do what he had to do. Now he could run over there and knock him into the stands if he wanted to, as long as he's behind the line of scrimmage. So it's gonna get gnarly. It's gonna be a lot of fun. This is finally, I keep hearing, IFL's like in, hockey and football had a baby. Well, now it is. It wasn't before. If you think it was before, wait till you see this version. Because this version is going to be really amped up.
You talk a little bit about this just now, but the twist rule has also been eliminated. And so what that does with you allowing blitzes from anywhere or blitzes from, you can only have one blitzing linebacker, if I understand.
Correct.
Still,
but it can be the jack if he designates. Right. It doesn't have to be the man. So.
And you can do twists. And what's great about that, what I love about the defensive side of football is it is ultimate risk reward. If you want to bring an extra attacker to the quarterback, you can. But you are leaving some coverage out behind him. And if he can find that, he's going to burn you. But so it's ultimate risk reward.
Okay. But Phil, let me ask you a question or make a comment. No, you're not. No, you're not. I can only rush 4. He can only send 4 out in passes. I got 4 DBs. I got a jack linebacker who's really a strong safety. I got a strong safety, a free safety, and 2 corners. I'm a blitz 90% of the time every game. I'll tell you right now, good luck stopping it. Because if it's 4-on-4 in the backfield, and it's going to be 4-on-4 up in front, and if they choose to let their running back go out into a pattern, then I got the strong safety to cover them. If they keep them in, my strong safety can sit there and play in a quasi-robber position or watch what, mirror the quarterback. So I don't think there's a huge risk reward thing in it unless you try to get too smart with it. Like, oh, well, we're going to read on this one. We're not going to blitz. We're going to read on that one. We're not going to do this. We're going to do that. Yeah, of course. I mean, if you play a team that's a 75% running team, you probably don't want to be doing a lot of twisting and a lot of stunts. But that's not the IFL. The IFL is 75% pass, 25% run. Mm-hmm. So 75% of the time, we're blitzing. We're coming. We are literally coming. And I don't mind telling anybody that because you still got to stop it. And on paper, I like us right now. And if it works out, great. And if not, hello, I'll be coaching in Mexico somewhere next year. Who knows?
I feel like in our version of the game, when you bring that extra blitzer, and you're right, I mean, they can send 4 out in the pass pattern. That's going to draw all 4 of your defensive backs off the line. If they pick up that blitz or that blitz doesn't get home, the mobile quarterbacks in the IFL now have 10 to 15 yards unencumbered. Like they're just going to race.
But more space.
But if you keep your gap integrity in your blitzing, right? Just because you're twisting and I'm going 2 gaps over, someone should replace me. So if I'm playing nose and I'm playing an A gap to the field side, and my stunt takes me to the boundary B gap, then that end has to come over and replace me where I was in that A gap. So technically all those gaps are covered. And if they send 4 out in the coverage or into pass patterns, there's nobody to block somebody because there's only 3 blockers.
Right.
So it's 4 against 3 if you're going after them and they send somebody out. If they choose not to send somebody out and block, it's 4-on-4 blocking, and then it's 4-on-3 in the DBs. So either way, you can make it where it benefits the defense.
Sure. Our 5th rule adjustment here in the IFL, the wide receiver motion adjustment. They used to give 1 yard to 1.5 yards of cushion off of the line of scrimmage, which means a receiver could be 1 yard into your defensive backfield before the ball is snapped, and they would not throw a flag on it. Now there is a force field, a barrier, and if they cross a toe across the line, that is a false start penalty, and that really benefits your defense. And we're going to see a lot of that early in the season. We're going to see a lot of false starts.
Oh yeah,
and
the interesting thing about that too is that the fact that the high motion, it's a break glass rule, so they can have their head over the line at the snap of the ball. Their feet can't be over the line at the snap of the ball, right? So the timing issues between quarterbacks and wide receivers is going to be huge in camp, right? And how you snap the ball and getting the ball off in time and doing all those things. The biggest reason we did that rule was to eliminate one, it's a judgment call. And what have we learned last year about our referees? They have no judgment. So when they go offsides, they weren't calling it consistently. Like one guy would be at a yard, the other guy would be at 2.5 yards. And he'd say, oh, it's bang, bang. And it's, you can't tell and all that, which is nonsense. The other side of it is we played a couple teams where their guys would be in high motion, come off a high motion, be blocking a linebacker, and then the ball would be snapped. That's how far off they were. And I've got film of that. And it just blows your mind that they could be that far off blocking a jack linebacker and the ball's still not snapped. And then the ball would get snapped. So I think it's going to create an interesting dynamic because there is another caveat to that rule. If I'm not mistaken, people can correct me, but high motion guy can't stop. So it's not like he can get up to the line and go, oh, do one of these, where I can't go over the line. It's going to be timing. It's going to be legitimate timing. And our defensive backs are really happy about that rule because now you don't, you got a guy getting a head start the way they were before, and then you're running backwards trying to keep up with the guy who runs a 4.4, who already has a 10-yard running head start. So,
Coach, you mentioned a lot of these changes so that they're geared to kind of give a little bit more advantage to the defense in a very offensively focused brand of football, game. There's a lot of high-powered offense. Last season, just from the outside looking in, we're talking a lot about defensive backs. A lot of the shortcomings we had on defense or where we give up a lot of big plays, the deep ball, sometimes with guys just wide open, no one within 10 yards of them. What is the plan to kind of improve on that, or what's your focus as far as working on that coverage?
Most of the time when you have a guy, and you saw it last night in the Super Bowl too, right? I mean, guys breaking away from coverages and stuff. Most of the time when you see a guy wide open, regardless of what team they're on, ours or anybody else's, they're in zone. They're in some type of zone. And I didn't know I had the deep quarter. I didn't know I had the front half. I didn't know I had this. I didn't know I had that. This guy came across. This guy came across. I'll tell you exactly what I told our defensive backs. And again, I don't care who's listening. We're going to run a ton of man. If you can't play man, don't play here. Because now it's going to be obvious. You're either good or you suck. And if you suck, you won't be here long. And it's going to be that obvious. So if you can, and trust me, our guys do not suck that we have, but you watch great teams, and like I'll just use my Detroit Lions this year. They were probably 90% man defense, and the reason that Glenn liked to run a man is because everyone's accountable not for an area but for a guy. And as a former player, I love the idea that I don't have to worry about guessing who's going to be coming across or how do I flood a zone as a coordinator. I can put two guys in that zone. Now who's that guy going to cover? Because this guy thinks he's still got to cover this side, and that guy's wide open by himself. I just watched the Tulsa game, and I think it was the first series. They were in a double post, and there's one DB back there guarding two guys, and the cornerback that should have been on him is sitting in the front quarter on the boundary side doing one of these with his hands up. And I'm thinking, okay, how do you eliminate that? So I posed this question to our defensive players. And I said, if we call zone, if we call cover 2, let's just say we call cover 2, how long is it before we call a zone defense that turns into man? Because it turns into man anyway, right? So I said, how long does it take? They said usually between 1.5 and 2 seconds. So no matter, even if you got a cover 2 called, it kind of turns into man anyway, because you can see where everyone's going and you got to go to them. So a guy will go to a guy will go here and there.
They end up on them.
So,
yep.
Right. So I said, well, what about if we just ran man? Now think about this. If we ran man and we blitz a lot, how do you get interceptions? Passing pressure. How do you get, right? So great interception teams are teams with great pressure. Okay. So teams that read tend to not have great interceptions, but they'll have a control of the run game, let's say. So it's got to be a balance of both. But I can tell you, and again, the teams that I've had my greatest success on, we run a defense called all come, where we run in there like our hair's on fire. And that's won me 4 rings, that defense alone. And I will tell you, it's going to be run a lot this year. And you're right. And you know what, Leo, in all fairness, there's going to be plays where you're going to see a guy standing in the end zone by himself, but it's going to be an educated gamble at the time when we do it, And
if you are able to get some passing pressure on the quarterback, a guy standing alone in the end zone doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Because if he can't find that guy, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If he doesn't have time to find that guy, it doesn't matter how open he is.
There you go. So you just stole my defensive concept.
There you go.
I mean, that's exactly it right there. So I just believe the more pressure and the more aggressive your defense is, the more interceptions and the more tight coverage you're going to get. Because now I'm pouring 4 guys at the quarterback, and I'm telling them you got about 2 seconds to find the guy you're throwing to, and we're in man in the backfield. So now as a defensive back, I know I only got to be tight on this guy for 3 seconds at most? Okay. So again, not a lot of time to get separation. I like our odds. We'll just say that. I like our odds with the new rules.
Yeah, these quarterbacks in this league are good, just like they are on any level. There's a reason that they play the position they play. They work on their craft, and if you give them 5, 6, 7 seconds to look downfield, they're going to find an open guy.
Right.
Hardest position in sports.
And they're going to hit that open guy. So the key to defense is really pressure on the passer. This final rule, you're going to have to help me out a little bit with, Coach. I understand it. I just don't know what the benefits or what the downside might be to this new rule change. Linebackers and receivers can now contact each other in the box being that area directly behind the line of scrimmage, in the defensive backfield.
Okay.
A receiver running through that box can now be contacted, is what I assume.
Okay, so I want you to envision this last year. Again, one of the many BS rules we had for the defense.
Sure.
So last year, a receiver could, let's say, go in motion or even be in high motion, and he could run through the box where the linebacker's standing, but the linebacker couldn't hit him. Okay?
That's not football, Coach.
So you got a linebacker sitting there going, I got to almost avoid the receiver. So now you're getting picks and all kinds of stuff, right? Then we had receivers, and I watched every game at least 10 times this offseason. You had receivers running into the linebackers and getting the call.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This year, as I told my quarterbacks, keep your head on a swivel, I told my receivers, you might want to think about how shallow you want to make your slants and your little sail routes and, coming through the box, because I'm going to have our linebackers decapitate you if you come in there. So if you come in that box, I know you're within 5 yards, so I can have contact with you, right? I'm going to decleat you as you're coming through.
That's
so now
football,
what does
Coach.
that do? That makes the receiver have to go deeper, which does two things. One, it eliminates the BS call. It takes longer for the receiver to do that, which then gives us a chance with more pressure, right, to get there in time. And it frees the linebacker up from getting picked or on his stunts and everything else that he can do. So it is one of the more they won't ever say this, but it's probably one of the more violent rules that'll be put into effect this year. As far as, like you're going to hear people going, ooh, ow, ooh, when they're watching games, as opposed to how was that a penalty, right? So the biggest thing I can say, guys, is this. I'd love to say you made a point that it made it better for the defense this year with those rule changes.
It did.
That was never their intention. It was never the league's intention. The league's intention was to make it easier for the refs. And I'm not against that, but it was to make it where all these things we've talked about are obvious changes and easier for referees. So now they don't have to be, it's not an opinion if a receiver went over the line of scrimmage. It's a fact. Sure. Okay. And now it's not an opinion that he needs to get a yard if they're only up by 10 with less than a minute or less to go in the game. And now when he places the ball every single time, he doesn't have to think about the 25. It's always going to go on the 20 if it goes through. Right. So everything they did, they really did try to make it so the officials can be more proficient, I think. So
got a couple more minutes with you here, Coach, but
sure.
Leo, you wanted to circle around and talk a little bit about drop kicks.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned it earlier. You said it. You said the word.
Sure.
And let me tell you, I can't stand the drop kick. It's something I am not a fan of. But and I realize I'm creeping up on 50. I'm going to be 49 here pretty soon. My eyes are getting old. I wear glasses as is, corrective lenses. But I swear to you, Coach, and I just want to get confirmation if it's just me or you're seeing the same thing. But the definition of the drop kick is as the kicker releases the ball, it goes down, it bounces off the turf. And that point after the ball hits the turf is when the kicker makes contact with the ball and kicks it to the goals.
And what you were seeing last year were a lot of punts.
There were punts. Were punts. I did
Absolutely.
not see the ball hitting the turf. I brought it to being right on the end zone wall. I brought it to the attention of the officials, and the officials' response was, "It happened so fast that
they
you
call it
can't
the
see it."
bang rule.
Yes, these are professional athletes, and it happens so fast, but you can't see it. But trust me, it's hitting the turf. Bull.
So, I want to tell you how demented I was after the season. Okay. I started.
We know you, Coach. We know you're pretty demented.
It is, yeah. But I was worse. I mean, I came home and the dogs were hiding. The grandkids didn't want to get near me for a couple of days. It was one of those. And I got on the phone and I started in Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, Samoa. And I called all these different places talking to rugby coaches and Australian rules football coaches. And I ended up finding a kicker that could drop kick like 45, 50 yards. And the guy was like unbelievable. Like, I mean, he's sending me film and I'm laughing. Oh, and by the way, I'm a running back, because he's in rugby and he could run the ball and doesn't wear equipment, tough as nails, fast, the whole bit. And so the problem I was having was at the time he was in Australia, and obviously I was in Michigan. So he'd call me like at, 2:30 in the morning. And I'd try to call him back, and I'm calling him at, 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. his time. And so we kept missing each other for a couple of weeks. And then he came back to me and he said, hey, he really wants to come and play for you. And I can get him a visa to come in and play. And I'm thinking, oh, great, this sounds really, really good. And then at the very last minute, he couldn't get his visa to come. And it would have been fun to see him and Kevin in camp kicking against each other. But, you know, and I said to him, I go, well, so you can kick off a tee too, right? And he goes, not really good. I'm thinking, oh, crap. You know, you get a good drop kicker, but he can't kick off for you, you know, and then you get so I don't know. I tried though. I really did. And I swore I'd never do it because I'm so sick of it. And it's those teams that are they're aggravating, you know, like they're going to kick them and, you're up by 2, you're up by 1. All of a sudden they do a drop kick and they're up by 1. And then, you know, I just think with Kevin, we have a shot at kicking deuces. I've always been the guy that's going to try to kick a deuce every single time. That's why, you know, TC broke the IFL record last year. And we're going to do it again this year because you think about it, he did it for 23 times. So what's that? 46 points he was responsible for just on deuces, right?
Yeah.
And then he would average anywhere between 7 and 14 points a game for us as a kicker.
So real quick, Coach, what team are you most looking forward to playing?
Jacksonville.
Okay, why?
Because I want to kick Gibby's ass.
Okay.
Yes! Yes!
Love it.
Hey, just make sure you tell whoever our quarterback is not to throw the ball over near their part of the sideline because there's an extra defender over there named Jason Gibson.
Yeah.
He likes to play.
No, he's actually got a show going on right now, and they call me and go, you know, he put a show on the same time you're going to be on the podcast. And I said, I don't care. No one watches
competition.
him. Nobody watches him. He's got like 5 old ladies in Florida. He's got 5 old ladies that watch him. Oh, he's so cute. You know, one of those deals.
That's our buddy Jim Murnay running that show over there.
No, I love Jimmy. No, I'm kidding. I love Gibby. I think it's just because I think everyone's been kind of waiting for it.
Yeah.
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 And we got a little bit of history. I'm like 6-1 against him. And so I want to, I'd love to go in there. And I like the owners in Jacksonville very much. I think they're really good people. And I do like Coach Gibson. It's just fun. It's just a fun rivalry, you know. It's just one of those where it's really fun and doing that. The other one I would say probably is San Diego because we owe them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you get an opportunity to play them twice early on in the season, don't you?
Yeah. That's
So,
one of those games I was talking to you about earlier off camera.
you
know, so, I'm looking forward to it.
Should be fun.
He is Tom Menas. He's the head coach and general manager of the San Antonio Gunslingers. Thanks so much for taking some time with us, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
We can
Thank
sit
you,
here and
guys.
talk football all night, but we want to drag Randy on here and talk to Randy Carroll a little bit.
Oh, my guy Randy. Yeah, that's boy, I tell you what, when I found out I couldn't have been happier. He is the salt of the earth and one of the best people I know. So I'm so excited to have him on board this year.
James Palmer on Facebook wants to point out that we also need to pay back Vegas.
True.
Vegas kicked our butt.
They made us look. It was the one game that I felt like we were outmatched. Just 100%.
Well, you got to remember Sam was injured and playing, and we had about 3 or 4 guys that weren't. And we went in there like soldiers, and I was proud of the guys, but we got our butts kicked. And Mike Davis and I are good friends, and I want to spank him.
We get them early on at home. Looking forward.
We get them home, and then we turn around we play them on the 26th. We have a bye week, and then we play them the next weekend.
Yep.
The next week.
Yep.
So
sure do.
Well, guys,
All right.
congrats on the 5th year. Glad we're back.
Thank you, Coach.
Really appreciate you.
Brandon on Wednesday night. Where are you guys going to be for Brandon this week?
Rodeo.
Go to the rodeo. Go to the rodeo and see Tom and Ralph and
get your tickets.
Interact with them.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Guns up.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Guns up, Coach.
That's head coach Tom and us. Leo, most interesting part of that whole conversation, and he's still backstage, so he can still hear me. is when I talk about the offensive player of the year and a guy that was a fan favorite around San Antonio, Sam Castronova, and he says the guys we got now are better. What do you
With
think?
no hesitation. Boom.
None.
Let's go. Let's
Threw the
go.
cards on the table. He's like, yep. Yeah. But you know what? I mean, you know, coaches will be coaches, and there's coach speak, and there's a frame of mind, and he's absolutely right. That's got to be the frame of mind. That's got to be the outlook, right? You back your guys. Sam Castronova, as great as he was for the Gunslingers last season, you know, he's not a gunslinger in 2025 on the roster. Once a gunslinger,
Right.
always a gunslinger.
That's
I've got
true.
his jersey. I still need to frame that, and I'm going to hang it on my wall. But he is not a 2025 San Antonio gunslinger, and we're going to roll with what we got and back those boys. So
that's
understand.
right.
Well, Leo, can you imagine playing football in your park, playing some flag football with some friends, and you look over on the side of the field and watching you play quarterback is like Tom Brady? Would that be a little weird? Would that be a little like I don't want to do this. I don't want to be pretending to be a quarterback when Tom Brady is watching things.
Time out. I got to go to the bathroom break. Somebody take over.
Well, I'm going to feel like that for the next few minutes because we play around with this idea. We're just fans. We're just fans that threw together a podcast, and we play around with this idea of broadcasting or podcasting. But we're bringing on a legend right now, a guy that has been behind radio mics more of his life than he hasn't. He's in Hall of Fames in Nashville and in Texas. He's Randy Carroll. He's a new part of the San Antonio Gunslingers ownership group. Randy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I like that intro. That made me sound pretty fancy. And I have been around microphones for a long time. Definitely more than not.
Yeah, I sent you a message earlier today and said, "Hey, would you like to pop on with us?" And you said, "Sure." And as soon as you said "sure," I thought, "Oh man, Randy Carroll's going to be on my show."
Hey man, we're all just amateurs trying to do our thing. That's the way I feel about it.
Sure. So you're part of the Gunslinger ownership group now. How did that happen? How did that come about?
Well, first of all, you know, when Don Rackler took over the team, and he invited us out to see some games season before last, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And we were hooked right away. We were hooked on it. Both my wife and I. She's a big football fan too, and of course, just being around that and going to the games, and then we started toying with the idea of how can we be more involved. And so that's really how it came about. And it took, you know, quite a while, discussions and working out all the details, but here we are, and we are super excited about it.
So you were a fan first.
Fan first. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and just a great, I guess, promoter of the game, you know, going and telling people, look, you gotta go see this. We've got something special that's going on here in San Antonio with this team. And if you can just get in the door and see it, you're going to be hooked on it.
Yep.
We've been around the Gunslingers probably longer than anybody. And Randy, I don't say that to you know, hold up some sort of sign and give myself some extra props. But we started when this thing started at the very beginning. We've seen ownership change. We've seen coaches change. We've seen players change. One of the problems that we've always recognized is that it is hard to get the product in front of people through the San Antonio media. It's just always been a struggle for the Gunslingers organization. As a person who has spent a career as part of that media, is that something that you hope that your expertise, because that's what it is, it's expertise, will be able to help them do and get maybe the message out a little better?
Yeah, I really do. And I think more than just my expertise is I've always tried to be real careful in my career here in San Antonio not to do things to make people distrust me.
Right.
You know, so when I tell them, hey, when I talk about a specific product or a service, it's something that I use, something that I believe in. And if I'd been burning people for 40 years, you know, they're not going to trust me. But I've been very careful not to do that. And so that's what I hope I can bring to the table is say, hey, trust me on this deal. This is not a team that you're going to go invest yourself in, and like all these others, they're just going to fold up and go away. These people are committed to winning. They're committed to providing a great experience for you and your family. And that's the thing I love about Don Rackler and James Stubing and their entire family and that whole operation. It's first class all the way. Even the first season, when we started going, the first few games that the Racklers and James was in charge of the production, I was like, man, y'all are doing a great job here with this. I was blown away that, you know, just coming in that they did that. And now it's really superb. The production and the show and everything about it surrounding the game is wonderful. It's just a great experience. It's something you feel good about taking your family to.
100%. You know, we've repeated and spread the word over and over about the experience at one of these games. It's more than a game. It's a production, you know, and people come in, whether you're a football fan or not a football fan, whether it's, you know, the outdoor brand of football and your first experience on this indoor brand, which is different. You come out of there having experienced your time that you were there, and the Racklers, the Stubings, and everybody behind the production, April, you know, they just put together a whole production for fans that when you come in and you actually experience it for the first time, you'll be talking about it all night long.
Yeah, and I love that for families in San Antonio. They've got something that's affordable for them to go to, but it's not cheap. It's not just some thrown together cheesy production. No, this is great, well coached, well played, and fun football. And then the production of the whole thing is really done well. And they want you to have that great experience and then come back again. And that's what they're doing for families and being a lifelong, almost a lifelong San Antonian, but being here and this being my town, I love that we have something special. And I want to convey that and get people in there to, you know, people always say, oh, you need to get out and support the local football. No, you need to come out and get this experience. This is for you. You know, you're not going to be doing something, you know, for us. You're going to be receiving a great experience, a great entertainment experience, and a great night of football.
Absolutely.
And Don Rackler has made the commitment. He has sent all the signals that you need to see that this is not a fly-by-night sort of thing that's going to be here and gone. Gunslinger Nation over there off of 410, wonderful building, a headquarters set up there, brand new field last year, brand new dasher boards last year. You know, making sure that everything that was needed to put on the best production that they could was there. They didn't spare any expense.
No, they really didn't. We were taking some people on a tour of Gunslinger Nation today and showing them, and they were like, "We had no idea. This is impressive." And like, well, this is what the players do when they arrive. They go through there and they're videotaping and they're sending it to their friends at other teams in the league, and they're all jealous of what we have here in San Antonio.
Right. Absolutely.
I have one question, Randy. Sure. What do you think the connection that we're lacking between the team and the community?
I don't know that we're lacking. I think they're working at it. You know, these players are willing to get out there and be a part of the community. I think it's just getting the word out. I still find people that say, well, I didn't even know we had a team here.
Right.
Right.
You know, I think we've just got to do everything we can to cut through the noise of everything else that is going into people's heads and their eyes and their ears, and cut through and say, hey, boom, this is what's going on. You know, if they hear it enough from enough people, they're going to go, I need to go find out what's happening over there.
Right. And I think you joining us is going to be that key. I really do.
Well, I hope it is. I don't like losing at anything. My wife will tell you that. I do not like losing.
Well, you and Don and Tom then are going to be happy on some days, and those rare losses we have. I don't want to spend any time around you. I don't think I'll go out with you guys after a loss. How about that?
No, you do not want to do that. We were talking about some of the tough officiating that went on last season, and well, I won't comment the word that we heard the most on the sidelines last year during those games.
There were times, so I don't know how much you know, Randy. I get to do the broadcast with Ralph. I get to do the color side of the broadcast for the Gunslingers, and there were moments that we have to be as professional as possible, but we're both slapping each other and going, "What was that? What just happened here?" You can't let it go out on the mic, but we're going, it's rough when I know the rules in the booth better than the guys in the striped shirts on the field. And there were definitely times last year that was the case.
There was a lot. The most popular word was I'll just say bovine excrement. That was the most popular.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. But we're looking at some better officiating hopefully this year, and a little more even-handed and just better at making the calls, and I'm looking at. I think we're gonna have a good season. I'm excited about it.
Exactly. Well, I started a little group called the Gunslingers, and we just are really trying to promote females and the community and football. So I would love to have your wife come and join us and, kind of be part of that.
Yeah, she would love that too. She, like I said, she loves football. She's got 3 sons. They all played ball. She had them in ball from the time they were little ones. Right now, we've got a 17-year-old that he's a junior at New Braunfels High School. He's a defensive end. He'll be a senior next year. Played on varsity this year, and so we're all about football all the time, and she would love to be a part.
Perfect. I'll send her an invite.
Please.
New Braunfels Unicorns with Coach Brad Boulder. Is that correct? Am I right on that?
Yeah, that was Brad's first
year this season.
Yeah,
he came from Lavernia. I spent about 7 years in Lavernia, and I left right as he was coming in, but he was there for about 2 seasons, and then got the call to go to New Braunfels, which is an incredible legacy and an incredible organization. And so he left Lavernia to head there, and Lavernia did pretty well for themselves this season too.
Yeah, they really did. And coming in as a new coach and a new scheme of things and new coaches, and New Braunfels did really well. It went to the 3rd round. I think this is probably I can't even tell you how long it's been since they had gone that far, but they did really well. And I think it's going to be better next season.
Awesome.
Very cool. Randy, I've got a question for you. And everybody that follows the Smoking Guns podcast, everybody that watches us and listens to us, they're Gunslingers posse. They're Gunslingers faithful. They love the brand. They know about this experience. We're bringing in new fans every year. But you, as being part of, or being responsible, I see your title down there, co-owner and public relations. Something that has been brought up in the past seasons and just touched on a little bit, and we know there's been a little bit of a challenge as far as the brand and the Gunslingers name. Is that something that you've faced and you've got like a plan for, or what your response is to people that kind of hesitate a little bit because of that?
Oh, for crying out loud.
It's yeah, I know.
You know,
Welcome to 2024.
I mean,
Yeah.
I still on the air refer to the Commanders as the team formerly known as the Redskins. You know,
There you go.
I don't hang out in the politically correct space very often, and
Mhm.
so and I'm you know, this is Texas, you know, where every one of us is most of the time got two guns on us. So so I'm not too worried about that. You know, I'm not going to fret over it too much.
Understood. Yeah.
So what's the one thing you would like either, you know, well, let's break this into two different groups actually. Gunslingers faithful, folks that are longtime folks that connect with the brand and connect with the team and have been here. What kind of message would you want them to hear as we walk into this 5th season of this organization?
So to the faithful, don't be selfish with it. Okay.
Okay.
Don't just hide it and keep it for yourself. You know how good it is. Tell your friends about it. Tell your family members that you know, go ahead and bring your mother-in-law. Okay, just bring her. You know, she's gonna love it. It might
actually
fix the relationship.
My mother-in-law lives in Florida, and she has been to a San Antonio Gunslingers game. So
yes,
I've done that.
Yeah, that's what I'd say to the faithful. Don't hide it. You know, don't keep it to yourself. Let everybody know that we've got something special, and they need to come be a part of it.
That's great.
And then what's your message going to be for folks that that don't have a connection with it, that are weary of it? Whether it's, you know, I've been down that road with San Antonio football before. It's not going to be here very long. I'm not going to invest time and money and effort in that, or I didn't even know we had a team. What would your message be for folks that are weary of all of this?
And we talked to some of them. You know, I've been spending time down at the rodeo, which this is my 42nd year, I think, being a part of the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo. And so not only down there in my radio station capacity, but down there hanging out the Gunslingers booth. And I'll be down there for the coaches show on Wednesday night. So if you're down there, come into the Freeman Coliseum right there in the concourse, we'll be set up down there. Love to see you. In fact, if you're just passing by the stream here and you go, oh, what's going on? If you'll stop and see me, I'll give you a couple of tickets to the season opener, March 22nd. Out there.
Exciting.
So, I mean, what I would say is it's exciting. These people are committed to the product. They're committed to winning. They've got the backing to do it, and they're going to do it. Because Don Rackler doesn't do things half-ass. Excuse me. And he likes to win. Coach likes to win. I like to win. Everybody involved wants to win, and winning means not only on the field, but it means off the field, and being able to bring this to a lot of people in San Antonio and allow them to find out what we love.
That's true. Well, football is really big here in Texas. If you could play a position in football, what would it be?
If I could play a position in football, what would it be? Oh Lord, I hadn't played football since it's been a lot of years since I played football. When I did, I loved I enjoyed playing you know, cornerback.
Okay.
You know, I loved playing in the defense. I loved you know, playing that coverage back there. But that was in middle school. Right before high school, I crushed my foot on a bad motorcycle wreck. So so no more football for me after that.
You know, as a kid, and even in my 20s, I always thought I wanted to be a quarterback. Now that I'm way too old to ever do anything with actual football, I go, man, I just want to be a defensive end. I want one job. I go get the quarterback. That's all I have to worry about. I just have to go get that guy. And I don't have to think about anything else. It's just eat. Just go get him.
Yeah, I've got way too bad ADD to play quarterback. It's too much to keep up with.
Philip, I thought you were going to say kicker. You just go out and kick the ball and then get off the field.
Man, I don't understand the dynamic behind kicking. I will set a ball down and try, really try to do what you're supposed to do and get that ball up off the ground. I cannot make it happen. I don't know what it is. I just don't have that. I don't have it.
So you're not going to be participating in the kick for cash during the season, huh?
No, but man, that is my favorite thing to watch. So we get halftime. Halftime is our break. Like, it's the only time we get a break in the game. Ralph and I are both just kind of, we're on for the entire game. We get this break at halftime. Ralph always has something to go take care of because Ralph is a perfectionist and he wants to go fix this issue or get this note or find out what that player's name is because he's not on the roster. And so he'll go do that. I sit up there in the booth and I watch that kick for cash. And when somebody gets that through the uprights, I don't know that there's anybody more excited in the whole place than me for them. I think that's awesome because I could never do it. I just couldn't.
You know, I ran into the guy at the rodeo, the older guy who took his shoe off and kicked did the kick for cash and won the money. And he was still talking about it. He was pretty excited about it. And it was a lot of fun. You know, he had him, then he had a real young guy. I think a teenager.
Yes,
soccer player.
He was wearing a soccer jersey. I don't know why we don't have young soccer players just lining up for that kick for cash thing. Because,
I know.
Yeah, you would think they would be collecting every time.
Right.
I know I wouldn't be. I you know, as soon as I planted my left foot, my knee with no ACL would give, and I'd be laying there, and then the stretcher would have to come out and haul me out.
Oh my!
Ruin the whole night.
Well, Randy, I spent a few minutes listening to your podcast today, your latest episode where you talk about shifting a little bit your responsibilities there in the radio station, and then you and your wife, Robin, I believe I have that right. I don't have a note down, but Robin, we're talking about how your sweet spot, obviously country music for 41 years or whatever you've been on the air, something like that, was late 80s, early 90s into 2000s country. I was raised, big raised on that music. So one day I hope we get a chance to sit down and just discuss that era of music and that genre of music, because I have a big heart for that era of country music. What we have now is not country music.
It's been interesting for me to kind of have a front row seat to country music for the last 40 something years. And that's, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of people, walk into my office at the radio station who I thought, weren't going to amount to anything, and they become superstars. And other people who I thought would become superstars, they're back to driving a beer truck, for a living. Nothing wrong with that, but that wasn't their dream. So, but it's been a lot of fun. And we could get into the whole discussion about music and what's country and what's not country. I kind of have this theory that there are no new arguments or discussions.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
It's only different artists, different eras. Because when I was a kid, my dad was like, that Kenny Rogers and John Denver and Eddie Rabbit, if that's country, I'll kiss your ass, and and so there's just no new discussions. And I always tell people, some of these artists that you hate today are going to be the legends of tomorrow, because you go back and you look at the Johnny Cashes, they were the rebels then. Johnny Cash, he was not, there were a lot of people in the country music community that didn't like him. If you go back further than that to the guys like Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, they committed heresy by bringing drums onto the Grand Ole Opry, So, it's always evolving. It's always changing. Today's music, these artists, they grew up listening to George Strait over here and then rap over here. And, and then all that kind of collides and comes out in their music. So, but I do think it's swinging back towards traditional right now. There's some great traditional artists out there right now.
Well, the Gunslingers have had their share of, artistic talents performing at halftime and post game over the last couple seasons. Are there any surprises we might expect on the upcoming season?
Very possible. We talked about that, but we'll kind of see where it goes.
Interesting.
You bet. Randy, thank you so much for taking a few minutes and talking with us. We're excited that you're part of the ownership group.
Yeah.
There are two different ways that in this sort of level of football, adding to the ownership group can go. One of them is they're desperate for an influx of resource. And then they're adding people that truly buy in and believe in what they're putting together. And I think it's clear just in a few minutes worth of conversation with you that this is not something that people need to be concerned about. Although I did get a couple of messages from folks that said they're adding to the ownership group. Does that mean they're running out of money?
Oh no.
No, that's not the issue.
No, that's not the issue. We love it. We think it's special for San Antonio, and we want to be a part of doing whatever we can and using our influence to fill that place up and give San Antonio something special.
We're excited.
He's a legend. He's a legend in all kinds of ways. He's Randy Carroll, and he's part of the ownership group for the San Antonio Gunslingers. So you're going to be out there at the first game there on the 22nd, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna sing the national anthem.
Awesome.
On that game, and unless whatever this is going on, this allergy thing that's in my throat right now is starting to sound like Johnny Cash. Unless that keeps up, then I'll sing like the lowest version of the national anthem you've ever heard, probably. But yeah, I'm gonna sing the anthem at game one, and I may do that again, a couple more times throughout the season, just as they need it. I always love honoring the country, and that's something that's really special about the Gunslingers and our organization. We're very patriotic. We love our country. We love our men and women in uniform. That's the uniforms that defend us in the armed services and our first responders. We love those people. I appreciate the fact that we always say a prayer at our game. We honor God, we honor our country, and our players do that too. They're standing up, got their hand over their heart as we're doing the anthem. And that's something you don't always see, but you're always going to see it at the San Antonio Gunslingers. There's not going to be any silliness that you see in some other places. I'll just leave it there.
Right.
Well, Randy, if they want to connect with you before then, you're going to be out at the rodeo. You're out at the rodeo just about every day, ain't you?
Yeah, a lot of rodeos out there. I think I didn't go opening night, but I've been there every other night or day.
Ralph Judkins, my partner in the booth, our play-by-play guy, says Randy will be the only pro football owner who sings the anthem.
The best, yes.
You're never going to see Jerry Jones get out there and sing the national anthem. Just ain't going to happen.
No, probably not.
Randy, I know that you, like me, you can see behind me. I know that you're a Cowboy fan. Strength, brother. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I tell you what, it's been a struggle. It really has. It's I always tell people I've been a Cowboys fan my whole life. And back in I grew up with Tom Landry, and my dad was a Cowboys fan. And one of the coolest thing, just a few years before he passed away, they were doing a Legends flag football game here in San Antonio. And Coach Landry came down and was coaching one of the teams, and Roger Staubach was there, and Drew Pearson and some of those guys.
Legends.
Yeah. And so I got the chance to take my dad to that. you know,
so sweet.
You know, and I got to interview Coach Landry, got to interview Roger Staubach, and he got to meet them and meet some of his heroes. And, you know, he was one of those guys that I'll probably never spend that kind of money to go to a ball game and anything like that. But we also got to do some of those things too before he passed away. So
that's a blessing.
Anyway.
Well, for years and years, Cowboys fans have always said, you know, when Jerry's not in charge anymore, maybe we'll have some success. But I tell you, I look at what's going on now in the ownership group, and I think Steven is Jerry, only cheap. And that's bad. That's bad news.
That's not good. And I don't know. How old is Jerry now?
He's in his 80s.
I think he's 89. I actually looked this up a few days ago. I thought it was like 88 or 89.
You know, I think he's one of those guys going to live forever. Unfortunately, right?
82. He's
82
years old.
Okay.
He's no spring chicken.
No, he's not. But I truly like for years I thought, well, one day he just won't be able to do it anymore. And then as I've watched Stephen Jones, I go, oh, he's just as bad as Jerry, except he won't spend money. The thing with Jerry is sometimes he spends enough money that he gets a good team out of it. But I don't think Steven's going to do that. I think we're in for a rough few years. We're in for a rough couple decades.
But, you know, Cowboys for life. That's me.
Yeah, me too.
I'll always be there, good or bad.
Me too. Randy, thanks so much for stopping by. We'll let you go. We want you to be able to get to Robin and get ready for work. You don't have to go in and get on the radio every day anymore, do you?
No. What I do right here in the studio, right here in the man cave.
That's great. That's great.
That's
awesome. Yeah.
No, and congratulations to you guys on your 5th year here. That's awesome.
Thanks. We're excited. He's Randy Carroll. He's part of the ownership for the San Antonio Gunslingers. Thanks so much for stopping by and spending some time with us, Randy.
Guns
Happy
up.
to do it.
Well, there you go. We've had the coach. We've had the owner. Not all that different from 5 years ago when we had the ownership come on and we had the coach come on. And that's what we do. That's who we are. And we've been doing it for 5 years. Anything you heard tonight from either of those guys that you want to draw people's attention to and make sure that they heard that correctly or heard what you heard in that? I may have something.
Just that it's a family event and it's family friendly and it's really worth it, and spread the word. We have to do our part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot that Coach Menas dropped on us in the first part of the show. You know, him taking over the defense, you know, the changes coming, you know, with changes at quarterback and how strongly he believes in those guys. And, you know, 2 of them at this point right now, he thinks in the system right now are better than what we saw last year, which is a strong statement. You know, things about the defense and the defensive backs and the philosophy. So a lot to digest and think about, a lot of positives. You know, you wouldn't expect anything less from Coach Menas when it comes to those types of conversations and those responses. So, yeah, it's,
he never said it out loud, but he alluded to it a couple of times. But I got the feeling, Leo and RC, that we just heard Tom Menas push all of his chips to the center of the table and say, I'm all in on this season.
Sure felt like
if I lose, I lose, and I go back to Michigan and I find something else to do next year.
Not Michigan. But he said he'd be coaching in Mexico.
Yeah, he did say he'd be coaching in Mexico.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he didn't come right out and say it, but I got the very real sense that he is kind of pushing everything to the middle and going, we're going to be successful this year. Now, what is success? Does success mean we're going to win a championship? Does success mean we're going to make the playoffs? We're going to have a winning season? I don't know. And maybe that's a question that we need to reach out and get answered of what is that benchmark? But I can tell you right now, I think Tom Menas would say it's a championship.
Of course.
A championship is success. Anything less is not.
Well, yeah. Anything less than a championship, that's always the goal for the organization. But I think it is a discussion that we need to have. And I remember us first episode of last season having that exact same conversation just amongst us, what we think would be successful that, considering the first year in the IFL, is it playoffs or bust? And if we didn't make the playoffs, would that constitute a failure in season one? And I think we were kind of not quite as grounded as we ought to have been coming in. We were a little bit drinking the Kool-Aid. And we all agreed, if I remember correctly, it was playoffs or bust. And obviously that didn't happen. Yes. I would say this year, realistically, because I'm not a coach and I'm not a player and I'm not someone within the organization that has, my focus is winning the championship. As a fan and as someone who does a podcast covering this team, I think making the playoffs constitutes a successful season. Making the playoffs will get butts in the seats, and ultimately that's what this team needs to do.
I've got an opinion. RC, how about you? What do you think?
I think Randy is going to be one of our key people to get some of this attention that we need from the community. So I think him being part of the ownership is going to do wonders for the team.
Okay.
But yes, I think we do need a championship.
I think a successful season, I'm with Leo, is making the playoffs. Give yourself an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself in the tournament. Now, the reason I'm not willing to say a championship or a conference championship game is simply because then it's all down to one game, and so much can happen on one night. You just never know. So much has to fall right or wrong for things to work out for you on one night. And so I don't want to put that kind of load on anybody, but give yourself the opportunity to be there. We did not have that last year. And that's rough. Hey, look at who's checking in. Cody Brooks.
Oh, gee.
Miss you guys. Guns up. Gunslinger for life. Absolutely, sir.
Yes.
One of the guys we were very excited about 5 years ago, and we're very glad to see your name pop up on the James Palmer would love to see a home playoff game. I would love to have a game at the Freeman Coliseum in the playoffs. We have not had a San Antonio Gunslingers playoff game in San Antonio. I want it.
Yeah.
I'd love to secure that.
We've paid our dues, I think,
Sports is a fickle thing. You don't just get it because you paid your dues.
But I think we have to think big. We have to go all out, and we have to be pushing for the game, the playoffs for sure. Championship, it's going to be up there. You heard it here.
There's something that concerns me about the schedule, Leo.
Okay.
I almost brought this up with Tom and us, but I think I know what Tom would say.
Schedule.
I think I know what he would say. I don't think he would be worried about it like I'm worried about it. I don't want him to be worried about it like I'm worried about it, because I'm thinking about fans and butts and seats and some of that kind of stuff. And that's not Tom's concern. Tom's concern is on the field. And so I don't know that he'd be concerned about it, but we have one game at home on March 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have another game at home until April 26th, over a month later.
Yeah, over a month, because we have three consecutive road games and a bye week in there as well. So that's a long time before you get back in front of your home team, your home crowd. I've noticed that too, and that's a tough pill to swallow. But if that's going to happen, I'd rather it happen at the beginning of the season than in the middle or the end.
I disagree, and here's why. If you trip out of the blocks and wind up 1-3 coming back to play Vegas, I don't know that you get butts in the seats for the whole season. I think you've lost your opportunity. I really think you lose your opportunity to connect. We know San Antonio fans. We know they're fickle. We know they like a winner. You come back 4-0, and I think things will be great. You come back 3-1, or even 2-2. Although 2-2, you're starting to get me nervous. But if you trip out of the blocks and we have a rough start to the season's not over. There's 14 games in the season. It's not, going 1-3 doesn't mean your season's over. But on the fan relation side in the city of San Antonio, am I just being crazy? That may be rough. That may be rough on ownership. That may be rough on fans getting something. Alex McSwain says, just go 4-0. I agree.
Yeah,
Let's just do that.
Easy peasy.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, but I think, it's hard to believe a team with the talent that they have, because they've got returning talent. There's a lot of question marks, don't get me wrong, but there's going to be those same questions for every team in the league. A league like this, there's turnover, and there's things change from season to season, and I gotta believe our guys are going to be able to withstand that first 4-game schedule, and take at least one of those 3 on the road. And so with just taking one of those 3, you're coming back 2-2. And I think that's still, it's not great, but even at 2-2, I think it's okay. You're going to recover from that. And maybe you're better than that. Maybe you're 3-1 or 4-0, like Alex says.
3-1, 4-0, I think would be great. I love that the schedule makers at the IFL looked at our schedule last year and they're like, well, they only played Tulsa once. They only played Bay City once, or Bay Area once. They only played Vegas once. They only played San Diego once. So in the first half of the season, they need to play all those people twice, because we got a lot of repeats. It's Tulsa, Bay Area, Arizona, Tulsa, Vegas, San Diego, Bay Area, Tucson. I mean, you see a lot of the same folks pop up over and over again.
Yeah.
And your schedule is really front loaded with your Western Conference games.
That's the
majority of your Western Conference games are early in the season, so you need to get out to a quick start. Those are big wins. Those mean something, because when it comes down to playoff seeding, you need to have those wins, those Western Conference wins.
Have y'all thought about doing any traveling with the games?
So not at this point. One of my daughter, Elise, she lives in the Phoenix area, so she's kind of close to Tucson and Arizona. So there's some of those away games that, even the northern Arizona, none of them are that far away. Mm-hmm. So we might be able to work out something there and then, visit our daughter at the same time. So that's crossed my mind, but nothing, there's not a game on the schedule, an away game on the schedule that I've circled or anything like that.
No, not yet. Tulsa is probably the closest one. Obviously, for anybody that's been disconnected from the IFL and just didn't know, Duke City and Frisco suspended operations for the year. They, for all intents and purposes, at least for this year, do not exist. Okay. So that's why you don't see them pop up on the schedule. They suspended operations. So we do not have that in-state rivalry with Frisco. That was a lot of fun.
Right.
Tulsa is the next. Yeah. Tulsa is the next closest team to us. And so I don't know if that's the rivalry. The game in Jacksonville is very interesting. It's not until July. It's on the back end of the season. It may mean a lot. It may mean nothing. I don't really know, but just the fact that we're going to get to play against the Sharks again. And I think there was kind of a rivalry that had started back in the NAL days between Jacksonville and San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
And I want them to be better. Like they were, Coach mentioned it. They were 3-12 or something last year. I sure want them to be better. Alex McSwain says the drive to Tucson isn't bad. He'd probably go again. That's the last weekend in May. It's just, there's nothing nearby. Tulsa's probably the closest, but all of them are, California or Arizona. There's the Vegas game, the Jacksonville game, but they're a ways away.
Well, you've got family in Dallas, and Tulsa's only another 4 hours away. 4 hours away from there, right? So
that's true. You're not wrong.
It's doable.
Leo, did you hear anything in those rule adjustments that you just love or hate, or you're questioning, or you're not sure about?
A couple of things. I mean, I think that the biggest thing for me is the rule for the offsides with the running start for the receivers.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a big one, because those receivers getting that running start and being able to cross the line of scrimmage by a yard or two, that really puts. I mean, the job of a defensive back is hard as it is.
Yes.
It's very difficult to cover. Then when you're having to stand still and wait on a receiver who's in forward motion already and got a head start getting to a full head of steam, and then on top of that getting a couple yards lead on their route, it makes it really difficult. And man, we got burned on a lot of deep plays last year. Something I brought up with Coach, and I think that's gonna help quite a bit. And if he's planning on playing man, that's gonna be either really good or really bad. And it's just like he said, it's gonna show really quickly how good our defensive backs are, how fast they are, and how they can cover, what their coverage skills are like. We had Clifton Duck last year who played very well. I thought he was one of the better defensive backs. But beyond Clifton, we had some guys had some good games and some bad games, and that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see what our coverage is going to look like, and I think that's going to help out quite a bit.
Do you agree with I'm sorry. Do you agree with Coach Menas that a lot of these changes were based on to help the refs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is very clear that the rule changes were set in place to bring it more in line with the game that these refs will understand, and will have to do less work. They don't have to watch for twists. They don't have to watch for linebackers blitzing in certain areas. They're much more able to watch for really important sort of things. And it just so happens to really help out the defense. I'm glad you brought that up, Leo, the man coverage issue thing. It's not an issue. Like, you do your defense the way you want to do your defense. I think the benefit to it will be you may see guys get burned. You may see guys open, but they're going to be open by a step or two. They are not going to be open by 10 yards.
Yeah.
Nobody on the same side of the field because somebody missed an assignment or didn't understand, or they flooded the zone and I was coming down to meet this receiver and they threw over the top of my head and hit that receiver. If you've got a man and you've got a man and you've got a man, then when they go out, he may beat you, but at least I can look and go, well, there's where he beat you. He beat you on this sort of route. And so I like that. I like that we're not, you may get beat. Like it's arena football. It's fast. It's high scoring. It's going to happen. But you're not going to see, as a fan, there is nothing more maddening than saying to yourself, we just need to stop here. And then watching a guy catch the ball with nobody in
open wide,
10 yards of him on any side. That's crazy. That hurts. That hurts to watch. It's demoralizing.
Yeah, it was tough.
And if we're going to more of a man defense, then we're not going to deal with that.
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
get Jordan joining us. I don't know if you saw that. Hey, Jordan.
Oh, hey, Jordan. I missed that. Thanks for calling that to my attention. What's going on, Jordan? You getting that t-shirt cannon warmed up?
Yes.
Ready to go? Ready to shoot all the way up into the rafters?
Well, at least you can say coach is very confident.
Yes.
Well, that confidence has never been Tom Menas' problem.
No,
not a problem. No.
That's not a bad thing.
Nope, not for a coach.
Jordan feels the stress building. Man, it's coming. 40 days. If you needed a countdown, if you're not running your own countdown, I am. It's 40 days. We're 40
excited
days from Gunslinger football.
We don't have to do all the prep work that you're doing and worrying about and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine what that's like. So we're just excited.
We just enjoy the game.
So just think about that. While you're working those really long 18, 20-hour days and getting stuff ready, just think about, well, Philip and Leo and RC are really excited about all this stuff I'm doing. So maybe that'll keep you motivated. Put a smile on your face.
I can't wait for the new merchandise.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let us know what you got new bubbling down there. Jordan says the countdown lives in my head rent-free. I had to look up 40 days. I bet he didn't have to look up 40 days. I bet he knows that they're 40 days out. I don't think I ever gave my answer on what success is. Did I? Yeah, I did. I said give yourself a chance.
Yeah, you agreed.
Give yourself the opportunity. Playoffs. Give yourself the opportunity. I want to talk a little bit about the other football teams that we're going to be covering, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it just because there's not a lot to talk about.
True.
The Brahmas are back. Yay. That's great. I will tell you, I watched the game last night. There was a UFL commercial at one point.
Two.
Well, I'm talking about, in my experience, the one I saw. I'm telling a story, RC.
Okay.
There was a commercial that came on at one point for the UFL, and mentally, I just kind of shrugged and went, "Oh yeah, that's coming back too." I'm not near as excited for Brahma's season as I am for Gunslinger season. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's bad. I'm sure I'll get more excited as we get closer to it.
Yeah.
It's bad. I'm not engaged. I'm not engaged in this thing.
It's bad, Philip, but it's understandable. I understand why, because of the scheduling this year. The scheduling is a tough pill to swallow. It is. It really is. So I get it. But as a San Antonio-based football fan, I know you're not living in San Antonio anymore, but you're still a San Antonio-based football fan, or you wouldn't be doing this show. It is a bad thing. We need to be excited about our teams, and we need to share that excitement. But yes, man, we got screwed with the scheduling, and
we did.
Whatever excuse it is. And I know, there's other people that have come forward and said, "Oh, it doesn't bother me at all. They're working hard behind the scenes, and they've done the best they can." None of that matters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who did what or who said what, or best efforts here, or best, they want to do this for the fan base, and this is what matters is how the fan base perceives it. And outside of the very few really loyal diehard fans, the perception is not good. And those are the ones that you really need to be worried about, because the diehards like us,
they're coming. They're coming no matter what.
They're coming no matter what. It's the other ones that are on the fence, or that haven't been before. Those are the ones you need to be worried about. And man, did you fall short on them this season, UFL.
Taylor Swift might be on the market soon. Maybe a Gunslinger can seal the deal. I bet you got guys in the locker. I bet you got guys in the locker room that will sign up for that duty. So if you don't know, if you're like, hey, what's wrong with the Brahmas? What's wrong with the Brahmas schedule? Only 4 home games this year.
Yeah. Well, no. We have a home game, but it's in St. Louis.
No, we
14
don't.
hours
No, we
away.
don't. No, we don't.
A home game. Even on the schedule, it says, it says
at it right now.
San Antonio at whatever. And then when it's a home game, it's San Antonio versus whatever. Look at that game, and it says San Antonio versus St. Louis Battlehawks.
Yeah.
Bull.
So here's the thing.
Bull.
You folks in the UFL, and we do actually have, like, I saw one of the Brahma staff pop in a little earlier.
John.
So there might actually be UFL folks listening right now. UFL, here's how you do that. If you don't have the space, and I realize that you're not in control of the Alamo Dome, I understand the problem. I get it. I fully understand what the problem is. If you want to give us a home game that's not in our home stadium, then you have San Antonio play the DC Defenders in Houston.
Yes.
Or Dallas.
Yes.
You do not take the San Antonio Brahmas, ship them up to St. Louis, have them play in the Dome in St. Louis's home field, and then go, but it's your home game. No, it's not. There's nothing about that game that is a San Antonio home game. I don't care if you tell me, well, we're going to switch the locker rooms or we're going to switch sides of the field, so you're going to be standing on the home side and they're going to be – I don't care. You get to wear the dark uniforms and they have to wear the light ones. That don't matter. It's not a home game. It's not. You blew it. You botched it. It's so simple. All you had to do was schedule another team against San Antonio in Houston and call it a home game, and boom.
In our home state. Keep it in the home state.
But don't try to sell me that a home game in St. Louis against the St. Louis Battlehawks is our home game. I'm not stupid. You insult my intelligence as a fan when you try to tell me that. It feels insulting for you to put this on here and be like, oh, they're the home team. No, they're not. They are clearly not.
Yeah.
Don't insult me.
It's tough. It's tough to swallow that. There's 2 other places in Texas that could, and clearly this was about selling tickets. And I understand the financial thing in the UFL, but this is a fan base that is on the edge, and this is a critical fan base for the league. And I just think that was a huge blow. I hope I'm wrong. But I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to fill that dome this year, especially the first 4 games all being away. It's going to be tough, and it's just a hard pill to swallow. Yeah, I like you, Philip. Put that other home game somewhere in Texas. Put it in with the Renegades in the Arlington. Put it in Houston, and play another team like DC, and give San Antonio fans an opportunity to attend that game, and because it's within driving distance. St. Louis that's a tough task, man, to ask to San Antonio fans to make that trip. We did it last year.
And Leo
one time. Yeah, we did it last year for the championship game, and it's not easy.
So Leo, did you guys?
I hope I'm wrong.
Did you guys buy season tickets this year?
Yes.
Did you get a ticket to the home game in St. Louis?
No.
Then it's not a home game.
I didn't get charged for it either. I got a discount.
Yeah, we get discount.
But yeah, it's not a home game. Calling it a home game is just ridiculous.
So they're selling a majority of the thing, like it's wrong. You screwed up. You botched it. And here's my problem. Here's my issue. Is we've been through 3 seasons now, 2 with the UFL, 1 with the XFL, where the schedule has come out and we've gone, ugh, I don't like that. 3 times in a row. There is an old saying that's it was written in a James Bond book, It ended up making it into James Bond's Goldfinger, the movie Goldfinger. That's the book it's from. It's once is a coincidence, twice is happenstance, 3 times is enemy action. When you have, as a fan, just kind of put together a really crappy schedule 3 times in a row, it's hard for me not to interpret that as you don't care about the fans here. It's just hard for me to find another excuse. One time
I'm not to that extreme. Yeah. I'm not to that extreme, but I understand why you would feel that way.
One time it's a coincidence. Hey, things happen, whatever. 2 times, that's unfortunate. But 3 times it's just like, so you just don't care.
And the other thing we hadn't even touched on where they missed the mark, and somebody said it earlier, I think, it was Alex. He hit the nail on the head where 2 of the home games that we actually do get that are actual home games are on Friday night. Which anybody who's ever been to a professional football game in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome, or even a college football game in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome, knows what a huge part of the experience tailgating is to this fan base. And scheduling a game on a Friday night at 7:00 or whatever time it is, I think it's 7. That makes tailgating for this working class town, blue collar town that has jobs to go to and doesn't take days off, lightly. They don't have a lot of days they can take off. That makes it extremely difficult. That's gonna suffocate that tailgating experience by that much, where it's just not gonna be what it's been in the past or what it should be.
Most definitely.
And also a Sunday morning 11 a.m. game to finish out the season. There's no time there for tailgating either. So, I feel like they've dropped the ball on the schedule. I know that there are some of our friends out there. I know the Horns Forward podcast is out there, and they're telling everybody, hey, they did what they could, and we still need to support them. We don't disagree. They still need our support. But I'm not willing, to give them a pass, because I gave them a pass for 2 other years, and I've run out of passes. I have to print some more off before I can give you a pass on this one, and I just haven't had time to do that. That's a mess. Let's talk a little bit about the IFA real quick to wrap things up. The IFA is coming to San Antonio, maybe. They have a schedule, but they've already lost a team on that schedule that we were scheduled to play twice on the road. And so I don't know that the schedule that we have right now is the schedule that we will be dealing with once we get to the season. There's lots of questions that anybody that has dealt with San Antonio football will probably have if they dig very deeply into the IFA. And so we are tentatively reaching our foot out and dipping our toe in the water. We've reached out and we've got connected with Hal Mummy. I'm just excited because he's a legend in the sport. And I can't wait to get him on the program and just kind of talk to him about the years that he's been around football and some of the people that he's contacted. He was a mentor to Mike Leach. I really loved Mike Leach. He worked under Mouse Davis, and you hear tons of stories about Mouse Davis and that run and shoot sort of offense that he developed. I want to hear those stories. If you ask me right now to place bets, I would say that we will be underwhelmed by the San Antonio Caballeros season. I don't think it will be anything that we will write home about. I hope I'm wrong, because more football is good. And I'm always okay with more football. But I'm just going to tell you really honestly that I'm not sold right now on this product. You guys have had a little more contact than I have with this product. Where are you guys at? Like, talk me out of this. Help me out here.
Well, I know I met with them this past weekend, and they're very excited. They, I know Jackie, which is the wife, she's excited about actually starting the cheerleading. That's music to my ears, right? And so there's some things that I definitely connect with them. They're talking about marketing, promoting, cheerleaders, doing some kind of internship with the university. So I think they have a lot of good plans. But I think their numbers were 90 days out. So, and one of the downfalls is that it's in the summer heat. And so we'll just have to see. I'm thinking positive, and I know that we're going to be. Actually, aren't they coming on the show next week?
Well, we're not doing a show next week. We're doing every other week right now until we get close to the season. That week before the season.
Yes.
The 22nd, the week of the 22nd is when we'll start weekly shows. So yeah, we plan on having Hal and Jackie Mummy on our next show, which will be 2 weeks from tonight. That's the
24th. Yeah.
4th. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the 24th. We would like to have them on then. We'll reach out to them and confirm that. And maybe we get some of the answers to some of these questions, and we feel a little better.
We get more excited.
Well, I'll tell you from my experience meeting with Coach Hal and Jacqueline and others associated, with the team, players that they've got guys that have already signed on and are going to be working out with the team, and meeting those guys and talking to them and how excited they are. I mean, their mindset is where it needs to be. And if they're going to be successful, they've got the right mindset to do it. And they're definitely, positive, and they're really great people, great to talk to, down to earth. They fit the San Antonio mold, the San Antonio culture. These, and so if anything, if they can just get that spark lit in the city, but see, the thing is, it's not just this team, it's the entire league that has to be successful. And that's the question mark. We already see one team dropping out in Baltimore, and so that really was a big hit. So there's questions. But as far as what we have here in San Antonio, they're definitely a group of people that I want to get behind and support. Just having met them and talked to them, it was very upbeat and very moving, and great people. I definitely wanted to. I can't wait to have them on our show and talk more about that. But yeah, it's starting a league. It's tough. There's been so many people that have tried and failed. But yeah, I mean, we're here to support it. With professional football in San Antonio, we're gonna give them the spotlight and do what we can, as much as we can.
Jordan Stewing says he will have some New Jersey drop previews for the next show, and also wants to mention that there is a Gunslinger booth at the Freeman for the duration of the rodeo. You can win free tickets to the first game, and you can enter to win a Quest 3 VR headset as well. Make sure you go out if you're at the rodeo and find them in Freeman and say hello. If you need some homework, Leo or RC's dealing with some technical issues, I think. But if you need some homework before we get to our next show, you could always read the book called A Perfect Pass. Let me pull up the author so that I make sure you find the right one. It is all about Hal Mummy and then Mike Leach and their it's just kind of a biography. It's by S.C. Gwynn. There's an audiobook version available, and you could do a lot of studying. You could get a perspective. Hal Mummy himself endorses this book. In fact, I think it is his profile picture on one of his social media still. The cover of this book is. So this will give you good insight into this man that is a legend in football, even though you may not have ever heard his name. The air raid offense and all of the things that means, Hal Mummy is a big part of that. And so The Perfect Pass by S.C. Gwynn would be a great place to start. And we've got 2 weeks. It's a fairly short book. 2 weeks should be plenty of time to knock it out. I just downloaded it the other day, and I'm going to run through it before we talk to Hal Mummy again. I've read it once. I'm going to read it again. Listen to it. I do audiobooks, so I'm going to listen to it again as we get ready. looks like we lost RC. That's okay. She'll probably pop back on, but it's time for us to. We've covered everything, right? We've talked about everything. We've done Gunslingers, we've done Brahmas, we've done Caballeros. By the way, we need to make a big deal when they come on the show, Hal and Jackie, here in a couple of weeks, about how the name Caballeros was created by this man right here next to me. He is the one that developed that name that they will be running out there with as a franchise.
Yeah, and that's something. I
pretty cool.
Was talking about that with Dolores. Yeah, it's pretty crazy how that happened. But what we need to come up with now, maybe we get some suggestions from our listeners, people that follow us, and you can shoot us a note or something, or post in the comments your suggestions. But we have hashtags. We have Guns Up, for the Gunslingers, and the Bang Bang for our show. And we've got, Horns Forward for the Brahmas. What's it going to be for the Caballeros? We need a good hashtag to show our support for the San Antonio Caballeros. So let's come up with some good ideas for those hashtags so we can put that out there.
I guess a gentlemanly pursuit is probably too long for a hashtag, right?
I might be a little confusing.
We are the Smoking Guns Podcast. We cover San Antonio professional football in all of its forms. We are brought to you by a great group of patrons that stuck with us all the way through the offseason. And they are still with us even tonight. Alfred Rodriguez, James Palmer, Jay Washington, Jordan Stubing, James Stubing, Kim and Greg Nelson, Mo and Iris Ferrante. All the way through the offseason, they continued to pour into our show, to give to our show, and be a part of what we were doing, even while we were doing some silly stuff like talking about movies twice a month.
Yeah.
They were still part of this show and helped us keep the bills paid, because we had to keep the lights on, the virtual lights on, and all of that stuff to run through the off season.
Thank you, guys.
We really appreciate them. If you want to be a part of that group, you can go to patreon.com/Smoking Guns Pod. That's Smoking No G, Guns with a Z, P-O-D. If you want to reach us on social media, that is where you'll find us. Smoking Guns Pod. Smoking Guns Pod. No G with a Z, P-O-D. What's in what box? Oh,
he's
talking
7,
about our movie podcast. No, we did 7. What's in the box? And he came on for 7. Great show. Great. We had a lot of fun with the movies. I had a lot of fun with the movies. I don't know that a lot of people connected with it like I had hoped they would, but boy, did I have a good time talking about movies. And I am still like, ooh, we should do this one next. I don't even know if we're ever going to do that again, but I'll run across a movie and go, oh, we should do this one. So that was a fun experiment, and those are still available on our Podbean feed. So go listen to them and hear about some great movies. Some movies we thought were great, but we're not so sure about
not
anymore.
As great after, And that was part of the fun, though.
I was genuinely surprised that we both walked away from Heat going, I'm not sure I like this as much as I thought I liked this. That was incredible to me. I did not see that coming. That was a twist ending for sure for me. If you want to be part, I already did Patreon. If you want to connect with the show, you can do that at Smoking Guns Pod on all of our social media. You can email the show at smokinggunspod@gmail.com. With all that being said, we are going to head for the hills, and we'll be back in 2 weeks as we sit down and spend some time with Hal Mummy. We'll probably have some updates about Gunslingers news, maybe even some stuff about the Brahmas. Who knows?
Oh, we will.
We'll discuss more about San Antonio Pro Football in 2 weeks on February 24th. Until then, when it comes to professional football, whether it's in Vegas or San Diego, whether it's in Jacksonville or a home game in St. Louis, Missouri. When it comes to professional football, the 210's got something to say.
Bang, bang.
We need RC.
Yeah,
It doesn't work without RC. Bye, guys. Y'all have a great night.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We're back.
All right. That is the show. Thank you guys that are hanging on with us. James, Jordan, I saw Mo in there.
Mo.
Any of the rest of you guys that are still hanging on, thank you so
Coach
much
Q.
Saw Coach Q in there talking some about the IFA. He's not sold either. We'll see what happens. We'll give them their fair shot. Like, we'll bring them on in a couple of weeks and give them their time. See if they can convince us that it's something that has more legs. But right now, I don't know. I'm just not sure. And I think you bring up a great point, Leo. I don't know that it's the San Antonio side of it that worries me, but we've seen back in the AAF days that San Antonio can be doing all the things right, and that doesn't matter.
That doesn't,
it can still fall apart when the league falls apart. So, that's a great question. James Palmer asked, when is game 1 for
I've
them?
got it
I
here.
thought I had their schedule.
I've got it on my calendar. I put all the games on my calendar.
It's June.
They start a little bit later. Yeah, it's in June. June 7th.
Yeah.
June 7th against Dallas. It's a home game. That would be against Caballeros, but it's also a home game for the Gunslingers. So,
yeah. My big concern is they contracted with Benson Stadium. It's outdoors. It's June and July and August. Outdoors. I don't know how you're going to get people to go to that. I just, it's 95 degrees at 9 o'clock.
Night games, and they're going to have some cheap cold beer or something, cold water.
Yeah.
But
Jordan's right. The first game is March 22nd at the Freeman. That's the only thing anybody needs to be concentrating on.
Oh, I can't wait for that one. Excited.
All right, folks. When it hits the Podbean tomorrow, it would be really helpful if you would download it. The more downloads we get, the more the algorithm sends us out to other people. So the more we can get you guys to download the show off the Podbean app, wherever you get your podcasts, even if you don't listen to it, just listening to it for 30 seconds or a minute so that your phone downloads it to your phone helps us out. It helps those algorithms get the word out about our show. You'd be doing us a big favor, even if you don't want to listen to all of that again. I don't blame you. I understand. But it sure would help.
You're not just doing us a big favor. You're doing the Gunslingers a big favor because we're talking about the Gunslingers.
Yeah.
Or the Brahmas or the Caballeros. So
you can also like us, rate us, review us in whatever your podcatcher is, your app that you use, and those help also with the algorithm. 5-star or 5-star reviews and some sort of description. If you just go click on 5 stars and you don't write anything, it doesn't really help with the algorithm from what I understand. You need a 5-star review and then a sentence or two. And it bumps us up. It bumps us up in the algorithm. And more people can see and hear and be a part of what we're doing. It'd be a big help. Please do it. All right, we're going to say goodnight to you folks, and we're going to head. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll talk some more football. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks, guys.